We can't say l'chaim today. It's time Esther, but you have to get ready for Purim. Say l'chaim, right? Say l'chaim. The actually once said that Hashem always says l'chaim to every single creature in the world. Hashem is always giving chayis to each of us, always giving us and animating us. So so if Hashem is always saying l'chaim, we should at least respond l'chaim. The whole idea of Purim seems to be contrary to what Judaism is all about. Hashem puts us in this world and He wants us to do the right thing and stay away from the wrong things. And in order to do that, you have to be very cognizant of what is right and what's wrong, and to care. And all of a sudden we say there's a holiday of Purim, and Purim you're supposed to go ad lo yada, go beyond all limitations. And the question is, what does that even mean? What is that about? Obviously, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to make any mistakes, right? It says that if Chas v'Shalom person knows that, or it's the slightest chance that by drinking you're going to make a mistake and miss a mitzvah, you shouldn't drink. And yet this yantiv is about this unbridled, unlimited joy. To the extent that on a regular holiday, the Bezdin would send out emissaries to go travel throughout Eretz Yisrael and to make sure that people weren't too joyous, too frivolous, because if they would be too frivolous, so they would make mistakes. So apparently Purim doesn't have that issue, but the question is, what does it have instead? Obviously there is. We know every year that there are people who make big mistakes on Purim. That's not a question. The question is, what is it in this yantiv that Hashem wants us to reach? Also, what's the idea of the costumes? What's the meaning of the costumes on Purim? The Rebbe Marash had a chassid who, in those days, the fashion was to wear a short jacket. It was a new fashion. And the custom of the Jewish people till then was to wear long kapotas, long jackets. So it was a chassid who, when he went to work in Moscow, he would wear a short jacket. And he went to visit Rebbe Marash in Lubavitch, he would wear a long coat. So he's wearing this long coat in Lubavitch, a short coat in Moscow, and he feels bad about this. He says, why am I lying to the Rebbe? Why am I pretending to be someone who I'm not to the Rebbe? So he decides he wants to be honest, wants to be real. So what does he do? He puts on his short jacket and he visits the Rebbe Marash in a short jacket. So Rebbe Marash says, what's this? So he said, listen, I want to be honest. I don't want to fool you. So Rebbe Marash says, I know that you wear a short jacket in Moscow, but when you decide that you want to be honest, why does honesty mean that you're going to wear a short jacket? Maybe honesty means that you're supposed to wear a long jacket, a long coat in Moscow. So we have to figure out what is our costume and who are we really. And we're going to see, Mr. Shem, that Purim is a lot about taking off, putting on the masks, but understanding what part of our lives is the costume, and what part of our lives is not the costume. It's actually the opposite. It's who we really are. So on Purim, we have many mitzvahs of the day. All of them start with a mem, mikra Megillah, to hear the Megillah, shalach manis, tanas avyenim, mishta v'simcha, to rejoice and be happy on Purim. So the Mikra Megillah, to read the Megillah Esther, the word Megillah Esther seems to be a contradiction in terms. The word Esther, as we were learning last couple of weeks, Esther means concealment. Esther in a Terminayin, the Gemara says, where do you find the word Esther? The Gemara says, you learn this from the words, the Esther's origin is in the Torah, and the words, Anuchi Aster Asapani, I will surely hide my face on that day. So Esther is about absolute concealment of godliness. That's the meaning of Esther, concealment. And the truth is that there was a concealment of godliness, this time of story of Purim, that they're never unsurpassed in history. As the previous Rebbe says, that throughout history, it was possible to, whenever there was a decree against the Jewish people, to somehow save yourself, because when if the not the there was a decree in one city, go to a different city. But here there was a decree to annihilate all the Jewish people on the very same day, men, women, and children all in one day. So it was the greatest concealment of godliness. That's what Esther means. It makes sense. It's called Megillah Esther. But what does Megillah mean? Megillah is the opposite. Megillah means revelation, to reveal. So Megillah Esther is a contradiction. What's the meaning of Megillah Esther? So what really happens as a result of Hashem's concealment, as a result of this great confusion, what really happens is that there's something that is revealed. Something becomes apparent. Something becomes obvious that wasn't so obvious before. The Gemara says that yes, Hashem made a decree to destroy us. Haman made a decree to destroy us all in one day. And the Alter Rebbe says that although there was this decree, and this decree, as Gemara explains in detail, how the decree took over a whole year, we were under the noose of this decree, yet the Alter Rebbe says, for the entire year, although anyone could opt out of being Jewish by saying, I'm not into Judaism, this is not me, unlike in World War II, which that wasn't possible, but in time of Haman it was. And yet, no one thought, I can get out of this decree, I could save myself, and I'm going to say I'm not Jewish. No one even thought of that. The Hasidim say about the Alter Rebbe that the Alter Rebbe doesn't just have Ruach HaKodesh, doesn't just have divine inspiration, but he has a connect. He's the leader of the generation. It's called the head of the generation, because just like the head feels the limbs of the entire body, so too the head feels the head of the generation feels every neshama. How else could Alter Rebbe know what every single Jew thought for an entire year? It doesn't say it clearly anywhere else in the Torah. This is something Alter Rebbe said. So what became apparent was that a Jew is someone who disavows idolatry at all costs. Until that point, you could think that the Jews have assimilated, they've forgotten who they are, that they aren't connected to Hashem. And because of this horrible decree, there was a revelation of what a Jew is. So Megillah Esther means to reveal the concealment, to reveal what the concealment is really about. The words the Gemara says are the source of the word Esther. Haster is a double concealment. Baal Shem Tov says, what's a double concealment? Double concealment means they don't know you're in the dark. At least if you know you're in the dark, there's an issue. So then you could try to get out of it. But if you don't even know there's an issue, so then you never will escape from it. As the Talmud says, knowing the disease is half the cure. If you don't even know you're sick, how are you going to get better? So if there was a double concealment, people are in a state of absolute confusion. They don't even know that they're confused. How will they ever get out of it? How are they going to come to their senses? So what actually happened was this decree against the Jewish people actually revealed who they really were. They only discovered who they were as a result of this decree. That's the meaning of Megillah Esther. There is a concealment. The concealment that everyone's going to this party of Achashverosh, and it looks like everything's wonderful, and they don't care, and they're totally assimilated, and they're just like the Gentile neighbors. And the concealment of godliness, this horrible decree of Haman, it revealed who the Jewish people were. That's why the Gemara says that the culmination of the giving of the Torah was on Purim. It says in the Torah that Hashem gave us the Torah. The Talmud says he put a mountain over our heads like a barrel. Maharal explains that the meaning of the barrel is just like a barrel is a big empty space. Inside a barrel is a big empty space. So too, and at the time of Hashem gave us the Torah, the big chunk of the world, the big mountain, the big Elam Haza, the whole colossal existence of the world, Hashem opened it up for us so we could see that the whole mountain, the whole world is empty. We could see the emptiness of the world. We could see the world has no intrinsic content. All that it has is a godly force that animates it. So when Hashem gave us the Torah, it says that besides the simple meaning that there was a threat to us, except the Torah or else, the Maharal says what happened was that Hashem revealed to us what's really going on in the world. So therefore, it wasn't a real choice to accept the Torah. When you see the whole world, all the world is the godly force that animates it. So what are you going to choose? Of course you're going to choose Hashem. So the Talmud says that this is similar to the concept of Meidah. Meidah means that before a sale, if you say to two witnesses, I'm going to officially agree to the sale, but I don't really mean it. So the halacha is that the sale is not a sale. So since we were only accepting the Torah because of either the threat or because of the revelation, it's not us. So it was because of something external. So why then is the giving of the Torah considered to be a real acceptance of the Torah? And the Talmud says, yeah, it's true, there is an issue, but the acceptance of the Torah wasn't the time of the story of Purim. When the Jewish people were under this threat and they accepted the Torah anyways, that's when they really accepted the Torah. And that's why the story of the Megillah is each part of it isn't miraculous at all. Each section of the Megillah seems to be very natural. But if you put all the events together, you discover something fascinating. There was the decree against the Jewish people. What was the simple reason the Talmud says it was the decree against the Jewish people? There's a decree against the Jewish people because they ate from the feast of Achashverosh, because they bowed down to idolatry. So they were deserving of something chas v'shalom negative to happen to them. Or as the Rebbe says, that it wasn't that they ate non-kosher at the feast, but they enjoyed the protection of Achashverosh and they felt at home in his protection. And the Rambam says, when you trust in nature, then you're limited by it. And so Hashem, so to speak, hides himself and says that if you're trusting in nature, so then Hashem, so to speak, withdraws his miraculous protection. His protection is still there, but he withdraws. He doesn't show it. So there's a feast, and the story of Purim takes 9 years for the story to happen. So we have a feast for 180 days, and at this feast, Achashverosh decides to kill his wife. And then later on, there's another part of the story where Bigsan and Seresh plot to kill the king, and Mordechai informs the king. And then Haman wants to kill Mordechai. And each of these events by themselves are just a natural occurrence and a coincidence. But looking at the whole thing together, we have a dazzling display of divine providence, which tells us that even during the time of the decree against the Jewish people, even while Hashem is saying that we deserve the opposite, he's at that moment orchestrating events for our salvation. It's not that there's first a decree, and then we do tshuva, and then Hashem sends clouds from heaven and saves us. At the very moment that Hashem is putting Haman in power, he's also putting Esther in power. Hashem is maktim refuah l'maka. He sends the cure before the disease. So while you're looking at the decree against the Jewish people, you're also looking at Hashem preparing the steps for redemption, which tells us that Hashem was hiding, but he wasn't forgetting about us. This little boy goes to his dad. He says, "Where's Dad? Where is God?" So his dad says, God is God's in heaven. You can't see God. So he goes to his mom. Mom, where's God? And mom says, God is too spiritual. It's impossible to see God. So he goes to his grandfather. His grandfather takes him out on a hike, and they look at he tells his son, "My dear son, look at the beautiful world that God made." He says, Zayda, I understand. Mom and dad say you can't see God. Where is God? So Zayda says, I understand. Wherever I look, I see God. That's what the story of the Megillah is meant to tell us. It's not a miraculous story. And that's why it's not a holiday like a regular holiday. On a Shabbos, on a Yontif, we get dressed up, we come to shul, we stop working. We are escaping from our day-to-day and we're connecting to something otherworldly. That's a Yontif, that's a Shabbos. Purim is not a holiday in that sense. Purim is a holiday where we drive and we're not forbidden to do anything that we don't usually do on it's not Shabbos. And yet it's a Yontif. Why is it celebrated that way without any? Why is it not forbidden to work on Purim? Because the whole point of Purim is to tell us that all the little events that are going on in our life that seem to be just happening by themselves, that they're orchestrated. Like the Berditchev Rebbe said, if you want to see a beautiful painting, you have to walk away from it. You can't see it up close. So in the story of the Megillah, there's no mention of Hashem's name. Why is no mention of Hashem's name? Because the whole point of the Megillah is that in a place where it seems like Hashem's name isn't mentioned, where it's not obvious, that's where the Eibishter is. That's the point of the Megillah. The point of the Megillah is to tell us that in the place of the Hester, in the place of the concealment, that's where divine providence is happening too. Not only in the place of Shabbos, not only in the place of Yom Tov, not only in the place of Shavuos and Pesach, in the place of extreme revelation. Hashem is guiding us by our hands every moment, even in that realm which seems like total darkness, which seems like where there's a Haman, there's Nachashverosh. In that place, that's the point of the story of the Megillah, and that's why you could see the name of Hashem if you look carefully. Mihu Zev Ezahu. So the last letters of those words are the name of Hashem. If you look from a distance, you see, oh, there's the name of Hashem. That's the point of Purim, the point of Megillah. It's to tell us that in the place to consume, what's the consumer? The place to consume it is where Hashem is guiding us, in that place of darkness, not only in the place of sea splitting Egypt. So this is what Esther, just like this is true for God, it's also true for us. Just like God, even while he's hiding, he's also taking care of us. So too, even when we hide, we're also connected. Esther told Achashverosh, I haven't been called to the king, to the palace for 30 days. The palace, if you haven't been called to the palace for 30 days, so then you're killed, off with your head. So how can I go visit the king? So we know that Achashverosh isn't just Achashverosh. Achashverosh is a parable for Hashem. And Esther saying to Achashverosh, saying to Mordechai, I haven't been called to the palace for 30 days, mirrors a Jew saying the same to Hashem. We say to the Eibishter, you know what? I'm not connected to you. I haven't been involved with you. I haven't been talking to you. I haven't been learning your Torah. I haven't been doing stuff. I've been doing all these things. I don't feel that connection. And not only that, Esther said, I got married to a non-Jew. So what do you expect from me? Why do you think that I'm into this stuff? I can go all of a sudden to Hashem. I'm not connected to it. So that's something that all of us could feel on Purim and throughout the year. Oh, so comes the Yom Tov of Purim, and Yom Tov of Purim reveals that even while a Jew is in a state where he says that he has no connection to this stuff, he's not into this stuff, and he's not there, Purim reveals that even while we're saying to Hashem, we haven't been called to the king for 30 days, that's not really who we are. That's just our costume. That's not who we are. That's the meaning of the wearing the costumes on Purim. Wearing the costumes emphasizes that we know that when we say to our not being by the palace for 30 days, that's the costume. And our real identity of who we are is always faithful to Hashem, even while we're eating from the feast of Achashverosh, even while we're bowing to the idolatry of Egypt. So what's going on is like this. There's a halacha that if someone falls into a mikveh, they are purified. Why? Usually we say that you have to have intent in order to accomplish anything. Without intent doesn't work. But if you fall into a mikveh, you're purified. Why are you purified? The answer is that purity isn't something that we need to create in ourselves. Purity is something that's there. The impurity is something which is superimposed upon us. If you wanted to get married, new relationships, you have to give a coin and you say, be married to me, like the law of Moshe Yisrael, and then you're married. But to be connected to Hashem, to be pure, that you have. So you fall in the mikveh, you're not, the mikveh doesn't have to change you. The mikveh just to take off what's unfamiliar and foreign to you. That's the meaning also of why we eat hamantashen on Purim. The hamantashen have the poppy seeds, the jelly, the chocolate inside, and they're covered by the dough. Hamantashen emphasizes the same point. There's a covering. And yes, but that's not what's really going on. There's a covering, there's the covering, and the inside is the inside. I'll tell you one more story, let you guys go. There was a family living in Samarkand, Margolin family. Zusha Margolin was drafted into the Red Army. So his wife, Nechama, and his son and two daughters. His wife's name was Nechama, and their daughters were Mina Rifkin and Altois. Altois and Rifkin, the matriarchs of those two families, were his daughters. and they decided during the war to travel to far off Uzbekistan to go to. They were living in Babruisk. They decided they're going to go all the way to Tashkent to escape where they were, and so on the way there, the Chama dies, and the younger brother dies, and these two girls, Rivka, Tova, Alta is a Mina Rivka, and they're walking there by themselves. And these people are from Rahman Sandam, they put them in an orphanage. And they're 10 years old. And after the war, they asked them, do you know of any of your living relatives? You know the address of any of your living relatives? So they remember, yeah, we have an uncle, Yaakov Raskin. We know his address. He lives in Samarkand. We know his address. So they were reunited, and because they were reunited, therefore there is a Rivkin family, therefore there's an Altais family. But how do they know the address? They know the address because their mother, Nechama, would always send a gift to her sister, Teresa Raskin, before Pesach. What was the gift? The gift was she would send her sister duck schmaltz. Since on Pesach, there are so many things which we can't use. So they in Russia they improvised and they used duck fat instead of oil. And they couldn't get a kosher Passover oil at that time, and some people still use duck fat because they want to be more strict to their mitzvahs and they don't want to rely on the companies, whatever. So she used to send her sister duck fat. How do you send duck fat in the mail? You put the duck fat into cloth diapers, put the duck fat and the diapers into a box, and you send it off. What happened is when she came to the postmaster with her box of duck schmaltz, the postmaster see the box has greasy on the outside. He says, you can't send this. Why? It's so greasy. So she left her daughter to watch the box while she went back home to get another box and more diapers to repackage it. But her daughter's there watching the box for hours. It wasn't like she went to her car to drive 50 minutes away. She had to go walk hours and hours back home and then come back to the post office. So her daughter is there in the post office for hours and hours, and the only thing she can read is the address of her uncle so that's how she knew the address. So even while her mother's going through this frustration, why is this guy doing this to me? What's really going on is Hashem is planting the seeds for generations of Jews to live with their mitzvahs. Bottom line is, on Purim, Jew doesn't get drunk, a Jew gets freilich in a way to Hashem gives us the ability to say l'chaim take and to reveal who we are and what we are, and with the joy to identify that we are Jews and a connection to Hashem. And despite the fact that we haven't been called to the King's Palace for 30 days, when we come to the King's Palace, we're there, right at home. L'chaim. Questions or comments?